closet, and that slow leak over time had seeped down under the subfloor, and eventually it got worse and worse to where the carpet got wet. We came in and repaired the leak, pulled the carpet back, and put some carpet drying fans on it to dry the carpet out. Which in any case, like Kurt said, green lumber, which is built, every house is built pretty much with green lumber. And when you put drywall on green lumber during the wintertime, it's no different than the situation that occurred. You had wet wood and you covered it up. And a lot of people overlook the fact that houses are built with wet lumber, and then with no presence of ongoing water, that mold then dries out and becomes stagnant to where it's not going to grow anymore. The other case is this particular homeowner was concerned about the mold, so I walked over to the dishwasher air gap and I lifted it up and I said, here is a perfect case of mold that's no different than what was under her floor. And a lot of people overlook the fact that the showers, the dishwasher air gap, it is present throughout the house. However, the goal is to eliminate the moisture problem, and then eventually the mold will dry up and will be no different than anything else. The best thing to do really, as soon as you notice some mold issues, is to spray some bleach or something to contain it and kill it off.
Yeah, I'll never forget, I walked into a house inspections, and I walked in and all 5 houses had become empty, and it was a good deal, but it was one of my first forays into flipping. And so I walked into one of the bedrooms of the empty house, and about 4 feet up the wall was black marks all the way around the walls. And I almost threw up. I got that feeling in my stomach like, oh my word, what have I done? And it turns out they had 3 bedrooms, 3 bed mattresses, flush against the wall on all the walls. They had about 10 people living in a 2-bedroom house. And so those mattresses had trapped all the moisture from their bodies, from the house, from the evaporative coolers against that house. And it was mildew. It was not mold. I learned the wonderful aspects of bleach that day because I literally was so freaked out and so scared that I had just thrown $500,000 down the drain and got a bunch of mold houses. I went and bought the mildew remover, came back and sprayed it. As soon as the mildew remover hit the wall, it went white all the way down. I'm like, oh, thank you. I was so happy to not deal with that. But it's very common to have that happen in a house. It's very common for people to freak out about it because they've seen the horrible stories about the people whose brains no longer function in Texas and sued for $78 million and won. Well, those lawsuits are over. The insurance companies have changed their laws. They will not cover issues related to that. That's why a couple of insurance companies left the state for a few years, redid their entire policies so that they're protected against those kind of claims because it was out of hand. It's pretty much been a non-factor for the last couple of years. But just from an issue of safety and from an issue of there's 2 things that'll destroy a house, and you just tell me where I'm wrong. You know a lot more about this than I do. But the first one is the sun. The sun does an amazing amount of damage to wood. Now, stucco, you're going to be fine, but even stucco over time, it's not forever. But your wood trim out there, underneath your gutters, your fascia, all those different things, any of your wood trim around your windows, over time the sun will rot that. And the sun, the wind, the rain, hot, dry, get wet, get dry, that'll wear out. And then also water. Water damages a house, I think, faster than anything else. Standing water, would you agree?
I would agree 100%, yes.
Yeah, so if you don't have a good slope on one of your pieces of wood and the water's allowed to sit there for 3 weeks, even concrete's not waterproof. If you let the water sit there for 2 months, it's coming through the concrete. If you let your stucco is certainly not waterproof. If you pound water against your stucco for, give me a pressure washer in an hour, I'll have water inside your house on stucco. It's just the way it is. You fixed the house for us out there on Farrington where the water had been soaking the stucco for so long that it eventually started to wick the water into the house because the gutters were wrong. It never got a chance to dry for the entire winter. And that's exactly where you see it, where water does this damage and then it ends up having to. So we're talking all things real estate, and we're joined with Scott Jeter with Jeter Built Construction. So before the break, we were talking about what's going to constitute an amazing deal in these foreclosure houses, on any house for that matter. So what it comes down to is the nastier the house is, the better the deal is going to be. So we got this house in Shasta or Tama County, and the guy passed away in the house, killed himself. And unfortunately, the police had to shoot tear gas through the windows. So the windows are broken. The house is unsecure. All of his stuff is still there. He had no survivors. And so it's a sad story. So I go down to see this house. The bank sends us the email, says this is assigned to you, deal with it, tell us how we're going to have to fix all these issues. It's always an issue when someone dies in the house, and that always has to be disclosed, so it's really neither here nor there, it just is. And so we went down and I opened the garage to get into the house, and the smell was so overwhelming that I'm like, oh, this might be the worst I've been in. So I walked in, and it got worse. When the poor guy had passed away, the police had come, and they'd taken the body out. Well, there was cats living in the house, and they had gotten scared, and they'd hidden. And so when the house was secured then by the law enforcement, the cats were locked inside. The guy has, and no one else, no relatives, no one comes to look at this. Cats died, and 3 cats, which is sad. Any way you slice it, I'm animal lovers. This stinks. The cats passed away, but they ate each other before they died. And Mr. Fluffykins, the one we named, the one that survived, his remnants are still there, but he ate. So there's the bones of the other 2, and then Mr. Fluffykins is in the middle of the carpet. Which is pretty sad. So he passes away in the house as well as his owner, and so that's a house that absolutely reeks. There's cat manure everywhere. It's just, ugh, it's going to have to be cleaned out. It's going to have to be trashed out. The trash out bid's going to include hauling off the carpet, because the carpet's beyond it. The whole house has to be basically gutted down to the drywall, and then that's most likely, I think, the way the bank's going to sell that. So, Scott, the question I have for you is, foreclosure or just a regular house?
I've been in, quite a few foreclosures and houses doing the clean out side, and it is a nice side of the business to where we can come in and do the clean out on houses, as though you just spoke with cats and different dogs, and I will say, whether they deceased on the property or not, some houses that I've been in have some odors from cats and pets that are just so bad that in this case, as in others, we will take out the carpet, go through all the flooring in the house, concrete floors, wood floors, and paint them, seal them with a primer, and then basically trap in and eliminate all of the odor within the flooring, and then seal the walls.
You do that. If it's concrete floor, do you seal the concrete too sometimes?
Paint the concrete, paint the subfloor, paint everything.
So the concrete will absorb the urine?
Most definitely. We had one just the other day. I went in to rekey, and as soon as I opened the door up, it about knocked me out. And this is a beautiful house in a nice area. Just a really nice house. Well, the owner had cats, and the urine had soaked through the padding and through into the concrete to the point where it was bad. So in this case here, it's going to be a great deal. And we go in, if the bank decides to remodel it, seal up all the floors, seal the walls with primer, odor eliminator, paint, and then you'll never know the difference if once the house is completely remodeled.
And the cat urine is a big deal for a lot of people. If what we see over and over as realtors is people have